I'm Caroline Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. I do talk a lot about SEO testing, SEO stories, rants, new things, but today I'm going to be talking about backlinks and how you might be able to tell ahead of time if those backlinks are going to help you or not because of indexation. So welcome to Confessions of an SEO. Great to have you back to Season 5, Episode 5. I may not have a lot of voice today. Not going to say that I'm sick, but my body is clearly fighting something, and I really hope my body wins. So even though I'm not feeling 100%, I didn't let that interrupt my routine where I've told you about Magic Mind. They call it a mental performance shot, and I call it one of the best things I've added to my work routine, both mentally and physically. If I get off schedule or traveling, I'm fine, but I do feel, something is off a little bit. And having to spend so much time really thinking about problem solving of SEO, I feel like it does help me function higher for longer periods of time. And I notice at the end of the day, I feel like I've got more energy to spend after I'm done working. So I use it every day, or I wouldn't talk about it here. And if you want to try it, it's available at Sprouts, H-E-B, Central Market, or Amazon. And if you want to get a month's supply or more, you can save 45% off using my link, which is magicmind.com/confessions. So you go to that link and select what you want and use the coupon code confessions. Today, I want to share some data from an impromptu sampling I made of some of the URLs that came into Indexilla for the purpose of getting them indexed. Now, if you're new, welcome. But if you don't know about Indexilla, it is my indexing platform based on the last 3+ years of daily indexation data. It does not rely on the Google indexing API, but good old-fashioned indexation principles. You can find it at indexilla.io. Now, having access to a bounty of URLs kind of makes me feel like I'm walking through a room filled to the top with M&Ms and my mouth is open. So what I did was I took a sample of 25 URLs, and the idea was to look at these and based on my experience and expertise with indexing content, to rate each one if I thought Google would index it, and if not, what reason or reasons might that content not make the grade? That Google would probably crawl it, absolutely, but may not index it or serve it. Now, I assumed, when I was looking at these URLs, they kind of all look like that they were backlinks. I thought it was interesting to group them like that. Now, backlinks, if you're not in SEO, these are links to your site from other people's sites. And they are important because in practice and in testing, we found that backlinks are essential to a healthy relationship between a site and a search engine. Oh, sure, I could get more technical than that, but imagine it's like people with lots of friends are accepted more readily into society than those without. Simple as that. And these links back to your site signify something along the lines of an endorsement of your site by that site that has the link to your site. Google tells us to write good content, the kind that helps people, and you'll be rewarded because others will want to link to your content and mention your name, and we will all live happily ever after. In practice, though, Google is the guy who was born on third base and thinks he hit a triple. If you're Google, everyone and their brother hang on your every tweet, and then they write about it on their sites, and there's a gazillion of these people. And so because it works for Google, Google concludes, well, that's just how you succeed. Yeah, well, Google wrote the rules, so they are correct, but in practice, it mostly works out for Google and not so much for the forensic accountant. So now you know what backlinks are and why we need them. So here's the question. Does Google crawl and index every backlink? No. Why not? You might think. Well, to Google, remember they're not actually backlinks. They just are URLs. Even Amazon doesn't have all of their content indexed and served. The fact that it's your link that's on the page is really inconsequential to Google. Google wants to organize the world's information, so they have this fleet of crawlers. They go out, find new content, or we tell them about our content through our search consoles. And the search console is where we hook up all the sites we own and can at least daily let Google know about approximately 10 URLs per day. But as to why they won't crawl or index every URL, we can't ignore that this partially has to do with the enormity of the storage required for every single existing page. But there are some very specific reasons that they don't. One is the site where this page is that has your link on it. That site has instructions for the Google bot that in essence say, no, 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 do not index this page. And Googlebot, being the dutiful crawler it is, will not crawl that page. Well, to be more precise, it will crawl that page, but then it crawls the robot's text file, which that's where those instructions that say do not index. So once it sees that, it will not index the page it just crawled, nor serve it in the search results. There are instances where Google might get mixed messages. And yes, if they do that, it's mostly our fault. But for the most part, Google is happy to not index that page if the domain is set up for those pages not to get indexed. Now, there are other reasons, and these are the ones that are oh so very juicy and slippery, and in some cases, obvious. You know, it's been said before that backlinks, in essence, are just on-page you do on other people's sites. So imagine if on our money sites, we created pages where we use less than 300 words. So that never works on our content. So if that doesn't work on our content, why would our backlinks that also had less than 300 words ever make it through if our money website content doesn't? How would Google know the difference between a money site and a site that may exist to provide backlinks? Likely not. Now, there are other things on a page of less than 300 words that would help it get indexed. Let's just look at Google's homepage. It's mostly blank, and that's where it has a search bar in the middle, but not much else to recommend it. And other than our incessant use of it, that's probably, obviously, they wrote the book, right? So they're definitely going to have their homepage indexed. So we know what backlinks are. We know why we want them. We know that Google may or may not index them. And from those that it does index, we understand that even fewer may be served into the search results. So getting back to those 25 links that I took a look at, it took me just under an hour, and I had a clear number after that time about how many might make it all the way through the indexation system. So remember, this system is comprised of a crawling system, an indexing system, and a serving system. So that's when I say all the way through the indexing system, I mean all the way through to served. So do you want to hazard a guess out of those 25 how many I thought would get through? And I'll wait. No, actually I won't. Let me just tell you, it was one. 1 out of 25. So at first I thought, okay, Carolyn, maybe you're a little more strict than Google would be. But what about the other 24, you ask? Well, already 2 of those had pulled a 404 status, which means those pages were deleted by the people who run those particular sites. So it's fairly clear that a non-existent page isn't going to get indexed. Duh. All right, the other two were indeed tagged by the robots text file, and Google was told not to index them. And as I mentioned before, those URLs are never going to get indexed or served, even though they exist. Now, the remainder, the vast majority of this 25, was about 20 URLs. And either it came down, in my opinion, to a topical issue, that meaning when you looked at the page, there were too many unrelated topics. I mean, think about a directory. Accounting and fire insurance and carpet cleaning and roofing. And if you know anything about helpful content, those pull pages, they didn't have a chance. Other reasons that some in that 20 were given up for dead was related to the structure. Some didn't really have a title tag. And to quote Vinny, forget about it. But there were others that both had title tags and an H1, but they didn't have any other headers. And to me, that's basically a lack of structure. And if they did have header tags, all the words that were used in those header tags were things like details, information, contact, those actual words, nothing related to, the business or the services that they provided. And I checked out other pages on the site, and they all shared those same tag structure. And of course, some had that dreaded not enough words. But there, shining in the darkness, was a single URL whose content wasn't great by any means. But it had a title in the HTML, had topically related headers, about 700 words, and really, I couldn't come up with a reason why, based on my experience, why Google wouldn't have at very least indexed it. And serving was likely, but I couldn't give it a solid 10. So the indexing was like 10 out of 10 certain, and the serving was like 9 out of 10. So now for the fun part. And this is where I was doing an index check. And when I say index check, it's really technically a served check, because I don't have access, Search Console access, on these other sites. So I really couldn't vouch for the case where they might be indexed but not served. Google took that away from me when they killed the cache last year, and that little voodoo doll has a lot of needles in it. Okay, so now it's going to come across like I'm bragging. But that single solitary URL that I thought had the makings of indexation and possibly serving, that was the only URL in that group that Google served. Now, as the owner of an indexing service, to the outside world, that really reads like only 1 out of 25 URLs got indexed? Well, no, because remember, in truth, 24 of those URLs, based on what I know and evaluated that way, in my opinion, they didn't stand a chance in today's Google. So there was really only that one URL that stood a chance. So 1 out of 1 viable piece of content, in real terms, that's 100% indexation. Now, I'm going to do more spot checking, because I think there are ways that as SEOs, we can be more strategic on our backlink choices. Or as a colleague said today, if we know the juice isn't worth the squeeze on some backlink sources, either they're set to no index or they really don't offer, a full range of HTML options like headers, then our time might be spent better elsewhere. That's it for me this week. Remember to check out MagicMind. You can use my link, magicmind.com/confessions, and confessions is the coupon code. Indexilla, which is my indexing platform, to get your content and backlinks indexed. It's so much within Google's terms of service. It's safe and boring for every type of link, even your money site. You can find it at indexzilla.io. If you need help with your site and you're not sure where to dig, my specialty is forensic SEO. Does this mean, though, that I will find that silver bullet and bring you something that you've never, ever thought of or heard of? Well, not every time. But if you're stuck or you just want to double check your bases with fresh eyes, by all means, reach out. To stay on the cutting edge of the state of indexing, check out Crawl or No Crawl on Substack. You can find it by searching for Crawl or No Crawl, and you'll even find it has its own knowledge graph. Thank you for being a listener. I hope I can count on you coming back next week for more SEO conversations, observations, and testing stories. If you have questions about today's topic, I'd love to hear from you. You can text Confessions at 512-222-3132. Thanks again, and until next week, I'll see you in the SERPs.